Fred, this is the second side of the first tape. Um, I didn't know I was at the end before. Well, what I was explaining, if it got cut off, was that I'm having 3 5-day-a-week courses next year for the first time. So I will be having something like 10 preparations, but a lot of it is stuff that I've developed already, so it's not that I have to invent 10 preparations. Very few are new. But each year I've expanded it, and it's been a wonderful teaching opportunity for me because I've been given complete freedom. I've been able to have trial and error, the way I pace the material, the sophistication or lack of it that I give to certain age groups, and so on. So I've learned tremendous amount about different ages and how much they can handle, and have been totally on my own. So I've enjoyed it a lot, and I'll be there next year, and probably until I feel it's mechanical or repetitious, it's a place I'd like to be. And my load next year might be a little larger, but this year it was only something like, 16 periods a week. So some days I had a couple classes, some days three. It's not that I have to be there all day. So I certainly have had time for my cooking, which I love to do, and baking, and sewing and fussing around the house. Um, yeah, lots of fussing things. And then I don't know if you know about my exercising, but it's been almost 2 years now. I exercise all the time. I work out. I joined one of these health spa places because that was the only way I could get the discipline. It all started when just before Joe and I were married, his fear that I might be a fat lady and my awareness that I was hippie. And I thought it'd be a good idea. And once I got into it, I just love it. And I would never quit now. Um, I go 4 or 5 times a week, and I do a lot of exercising, a lot of yoga things, which are good for breathing and endurance and relaxation. I exercise my fingers and my neck and all those things. Also have increased flexibility and what is the word I'm trying to think of? No. Um, uh, limberness. Limber. I'm much more limber. I do kind of ballet exercises where you stretch and bend and all that. And I feel great. I've never felt better. It makes me refreshed and relaxed and alert. And my figure, of course, has just been wonderfully improved. I don't have a big bottom anymore. It's never going to be tiny, but my legs and bottom are normal now. And I'm just delighted. And of course, Joe's delighted. He's tickled. So I have a lifetime membership, and I just go and I work that into my schedule. So my days are nicely divided between my teaching and my exercise and my housework, and then my own drawing. And I do that in spurts. I draw once a week at night from a model. A group of us get together. And occasionally I'll get in spurts and draw a lot at home, and then I might go weeks and weeks and not. But basically, I do it pretty regularly. One other question you had was if Joe works so hard, why doesn't he get an assistant? And I thought he mentioned that on the last tape, that he does. A former student is helping him. Well, you do work hard. He's busy. So there is a young fellow who's helping him do some jobs, just kind of casually. So I think now that I've yacked a lot, I will take a rest and give it back to the egg white lady. Joe, do you want to turn it off and we'll give it to Mom?
About here. Hello, here I am again. Uh, Elsa and Joe reminded me that perhaps I could tell you a little more of my life down in Elsinore. Grandma is fine, and she's just about the same. We had Bee visiting us for about a week. She happened to have a friend drop her off on her way out to the coast, and Bee is as I wrote you in the letter, Bee is going to try to get a job teaching in San Francisco. And she's turned out to be pretty good. And she's a nice person and sensible and yet modern in her way of thinking and in a nice way. So we had a nice visit with her. And Grandma's got the neighbor lady and another lady who are going to look out after her while I'm gone these few weeks. And I'll just tell you quick like about my job over at the bank. Um, I have all sorts of little duties. Mainly, I'm called the um, deposit box lady. Safe deposit box teller. So that is my first job. Then I answer the telephone and have four little lines where I call the different, big shots, the people. Of course, there's only 15 who work in the bank altogether. It's a little bank. And they gave me a birthday party cake when it was my birthday. I was surprised with a birthday cake setting on my desk, which was a very pleasant surprise after being there only a few weeks. And they call themselves sort of the family. But it's a nice feeling to be working with people who make you feel comfortable. And then I do a little posting, and I do I photograph the checks, and I take care of the postage, and I take care of new accounts and all sorts of little duties. And it's sometimes I'm sitting down, sometimes I'm standing up. So it's not too tiresome one way or the other, and I like it very much. So they were nice to allow me to take the 2 weeks off, of course, without pay, but I was glad of that and still come back to my job. So I'm looking forward to getting over to Tacoma, and I hope without any problems, and seeing everybody. And I'm going to stay with the Seinfelds because they invited me to, and it'll be very nice staying with them, and I'll get around. I'm going to spend the first evening with Lil and Jack and the kids. Sandy and Al are back east. So I'll write you a good account of the bar mitzvah anyway on my way home on the plane. You'll hear from me then for sure. So I'll say goodbye to both of you again.
It's me again, Fred. I suppose I should tell you about Anita and Devin because you might have noticed Joe said Anita was here, and he didn't say Anita and Devin. It's just a whole big, long, involved thing, and I know without knowing what it's all about, it would come as a surprise. It certainly did to me before I knew. But they have split up, and it's just an old, long, involved story, but simply put, I suppose it's a matter of her having married him when she was very young and pliable, and his having married her for that very reason, and his having imposed an identity on her and a kind of way of life that eventually she realized was not for her at all. And she felt terribly troubled and very distant from him. And a lot of things about their life made her extremely unhappy. And she left for a while. They went through all kinds of back and forth, and eventually they've split for good, and they're filing for divorce, or she's filing for divorce, and it appears like they're not at all going to be reconciled. Um, it does sound funny, because I know in your mind they were like a heaven-sent couple, but apparently that wasn't true at all. She seems fine. She certainly wasn't. For a while she was very upset and very frightened. She hasn't really ever been on her own. Devin, on the other hand, we've talked to and made it clear that he's welcome any time, but he hasn't come down or anything. Um, he has a problem of not really opening up and being very private, so that he would never probably feel open with us that way and ever tell us his problems or anything. And apparently he finds it very hard to do that with Anita, because he's just accepting it without any qualms. It's something, I suppose, when you're here in a year or two will be all much settled and could be talked about. But basically, that's what's happened. And they're trying to sell the house because, of course, that house wouldn't have any meaning with them separately. And she has the boys, and then Devin has them on alternate weekends or whatever it is. So it's been a difficult thing. And I think it's probably all for the best knowing what has gone on. I'm just trying to think of any particular news. What are you? Solchef, by now you've probably, oh, yeah, by now you've gotten my note, I hope. I'm sorry it was so slow coming, but it was very busy at the end of the school year. We certainly enjoyed your lovely gift, and as I explained in the note, we were just kind of surprised. We didn't know why we were getting a gift, and then it all was clear. And we think it's a wonderful custom. It's just lovely, especially when you're family of the groom. But it is a beautiful screen, and we're delighted with it. And Mom is wearing her white sweater with the yellow and green embroidery on it, and it's beautiful. And she explained that Grandma has a similar one. So you were very sweet to all of us, and certainly didn't have to do such a thing, but we are delighted that there is such a custom. I too enjoyed hearing your voice. I must say, I agree with Joe that you spoke his name so beautifully and so softly that I felt terrible that I can't speak like that. He loved it. And all of your speech was so clear and so soft. We enjoyed it and are very proud that you have learned another language so well. I'm sure none of us would ever have that level of speech with another language. So that's the end of the tape, so we'll all say goodbye. Goodbye! Goodbye! A long time, and then we got scared that he wouldn't like it, but I guess it's all right if it's a tender